So, yeah, this NFL draft's going to be interesting for sure. I think what happens in this draft, a lot of things will be surprising. This is one of those drafts where I think people have been waiting for this draft. I think the last 2 years, people have said there's kind of lackluster talent. I don't know. I got to get into some more position groups. I don't know if this draft is as deep as I thought. I think this draft's a little more top-heavy. I think why people are so excited about this draft is because they know there's guys at the top that are going to be superstars. It's far-fetched to not believe Brock Bowers, Marvin Harrison are going to be superstars. Caleb Williams even. Brock Bowers and Marvin Harrison, for Marvin Jones, you feel like the floor could be he could have a career like Julio Jones or A.J. Green, You kind of get that vibe of Marvin Harrison, just whoever drafts him, you've got a superstar. You got a guy that's going to put up at least 5, 6, 7 1,000-yard season. So you know what you're getting with Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, same can be said about Malik Neighbors. This is a guy that's got a chance to put on a gold jacket at the end of the day. So the guys at the top, you know what you're getting. But yeah, even the guys in the middle. Troy Fontenot's a fascinating guy out of Washington just because, like I touched on, he can play guard, tackle. I think he's ideally more of a guard, but I mean, I think they used to be kind of like a shot to a guy saying he's more of a guard in the NFL. Ask, the Colts. Having a dominant guard is no slouch. So yeah, I really like Fontenot out of Washington. Heck of an athlete. I mean, you look at Washington, Michigan. Washington and Michigan are going to have a lot of guys drafted. You see why both those teams played in the national championship. They had a lot of guys that were just NFL caliber, it turns out. And you see why Michigan was so good, and you see why this is finally the Michigan team that beat a very good SEC team to win the national title, just because, there was a collection of so many NFL superstars, not only NFL superstars for this draft, but also for next draft. So you see why Michigan was so good this year. Michigan, going to have a ton of guys drafted. Junior Colson, another guy out of Michigan. You talk about guys that probably won't go first round, but could be really good in the NFL. Junior Colson, a guy to watch at linebacker. Junior Colson, if you're unfamiliar, was a 3-year starter at Michigan, guy that made a lot of tackles, made a lot of plays in big games, especially in the Alabama game and against Washington. So, yeah, Junior Colson, terrific player. Some more guys to watch. Xavier Worthy, fastest time at the Combine. Where he goes in this draft is a little uncertain, but yeah, Worthy has a chance to have a really nice NFL career. With his speed, I think the fact that Worthy's not, I don't know, Worthy put himself in a kind of a weird position the way he had his career, because to me, for him to go top 10, you feel like he needed to be almost average or just very elite with that time. Because being good at that time, I think it's safe to say he had a good career, but was his career elite or exceptional at Texas? I don't think his career was exceptional. So I think he put himself in a weird spot where they're yeah, he runs this Combine record, but he was not able to be develop into an elite player, especially since he played 3 years. I think that's the thing with John Ross at Washington running that fast time. Even though John Ross didn't have the career that Worthy had, I think a lot of people were saying, yeah, since this is a small sample size, is there just a lot more meat on the bone for John Ross? I'm kind of having a hard time proving this or making my point here, but with Worthy, I think that he either had to be elite or a small sample size of solid to good. Him having a 3-year career where he was good, I think it's just is that, yeah, we have this time, but does that time, I guess the point I'm trying to make is, do we just take that time with a grain of salt, and this is what we're getting, a guy that's a good player who will make big plays, but he won't never become a Tyreek Hill where he uses that speed to make big plays consistently. So here, kind of a mess, but yeah, Worthy's got a chance to be really good. So yeah, other guys, A.D. Mitchell's a fascinating guy to watch. Keon Coleman too. Keon Coleman, a guy that's really slipped off of draft boards. Keon Coleman, such a talented wide receiver. At one point was talked about as the number 2 wide receiver during the season. It's kind of Interesting how that happens. A guy ranked number 2 in the draft rankings, and then he just, other guys emerge as the season goes on. Obviously, Florida State didn't make it to the playoffs, so that Coleman didn't get to show out when the lights were brightest. You look at Rome Odunze, certainly got that opportunity. Braylon Trice, Troy Fontenot, some of these guys, obviously these are really good players deserving of their rise, but Michigan, Washington players, McCarthy too, examples of that, guys that really got to have their stock rise and late in the year. But yeah, Keon, where does Keon Coleman go? I think is a question, because you got to believe he's not going to make it out of like the second round. I have a hard time believing he's fall to the third round. But yeah, Keon Coleman, a really good player. But yeah, I think with how good this wide receiver class, if Coleman is the 4th or 5th wide receiver off the board, I don't think that's a slouch. Because yeah, with as much as I like Harrison and Malik Neighbors, like Odunze going 3rd overall is not a there's no. Yeah, that's crazy how good the receiver core is, that Odunze's going 3rd. Yeah, that's what's interesting about the draft is a guy like Keon Coleman, top players who at some point their stock was high, and then as the season went along, their stock didn't necessarily dip, but other guys kind of emerged, and then they're not really being talked about as surefire first-round guys. I'm trying to think of an example of a guy like that last year, but yeah, Keon Coleman's certainly one of those guys. Kool-Aid McKinstry, kind of one of those guys right now. Still, you see mock drafts of Kool-Aid going to the end of the first round. But yeah, I'm the more I watch Dallas Turner, the more I really like. You see, obviously Alabama didn't reach the national championship game, but Alabama won the SEC, made the playoff. You see why Bama was so good. This team, I said this before about the Alabama team this year, not necessarily here on this channel, but Alabama, see, they don't have the depth they had in some years, like the huge collection of talent like they had like in 2015 when you look at Minka Fitzpatrick, O.J. Howard, Marlon Humphrey, Derrick Henry. They didn't have that type of collection of NFL talent, but they certainly had, their top 3-4 guys were as good as any national championship team. You look at Terrion Arnold, Kool-Aid McKinstry, Dallas Turner. Those guys were right up there as far as some of their elite teams. But yeah. So, yeah, I'm going to wrap at that. Thanks for tuning into the Brant Parshall Show. Stay tuned for more episodes and clips from the show.